Hi, I'm Cyber Scott, and today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on zero trust. Matter of fact, the Visible Ops cybersecurity book and series, in most chapters, we refer to a lot of the elements of zero trust. So I'm excited to get into it and explain it in a little more detail. When we think about zero trust, we really think about 7 pillars that every executive really must kind of understand before the next breach. And the reason is because it takes layers of security. These breaches could attack your organization, and they may not begin with a hacker breaking through your firewall or some brute force attack, as we call it. Sometimes it may start with something that was trusted. Imagine this. It's 8:15 a.m. on a Monday morning. An employee from Microsoft, receives an email that comes from Microsoft. The branding looks correct, the language is professional, but the sender appears legitimate, and the employee clicks the link. A login screen appears, and without thinking twice, they enter their credentials. Nothing unusual happens. No warning, no flashing red lights, no alarms. The employee goes back to work, but behind the scenes, a cyber criminal is now possessing the credentials, and they're valid. And within hours, the attacker can access all the critical systems. Within days, sensitive information is being collected. Weeks later, executives discover the organization has suffered a major breach. No firewall failed. No sophisticated exploit was required. Someone simply trusted something they shouldn't have trusted. This scenario happens every single day, and it highlights one of the most important realities about cybersecurity. Trust itself has become one of the greatest vulnerabilities in modern business. And this is why organizations around the world are adopting the zero trust methodology and a security strategy that really works. Today, we're going to explore what zero trust really does mean, why it has become one of the most important cybersecurity frameworks in the world. These 7 pillars of zero trust show how organizations can use layered security to dramatically reduce their cyber risk. Most importantly, we'll discuss why cybersecurity is no longer simply just an IT issue. It truly is a business survival issue. So, why traditional security is just no longer enough? For decades, organizations have protected themselves kind of like medieval castles. They build a really strong wall. They protect the perimeter. They have a moat. They install firewalls. They deploy antivirus. They control who enters to the gate. The assumption is simple. If you're inside the network, you're trusted. The problem is that the business landscape has changed. The attack surface has broadened. Employees work remotely. Applications live in the cloud. Partners access systems. Vendors can connect directly into your environment. Mobile devices access corporate resources from everywhere. And guess what? The attackers are smart. They understand this. So instead of attacking the wall, they simply steal a key. And once they have the key, many organizations will unknowingly allow them to move freely inside the castle. This is where zero trust changes everything. The philosophy is simple. Never trust, always verify. Not once, but continuously. Every user, every device, every application, every connection, even every transaction, every time. The Target breach. Let me tell you about that. This is a real-world example. In 2013, Target experienced one of the most famous breaches in history. About 40 million payment card accounts were compromised. Hundreds of millions of dollars were ultimately lost. The CEO resigned. The company faced lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, and definitely reputational damage. But here's what makes the story fascinating. The attackers didn't begin with Target. They begin with an HVAC contractor. Yep, somebody who works on the air conditioning and heating. And they used their network and their air conditioning network of their business that was trusted and had access to Target's major environment. This allowed them to use the credentials that were compromised. The vendor had weak security, and they used it to get onto Target's network. They moved laterally throughout the network. We sometimes call this east to west. And they basically they got to the payment system and installed a little applet of code that actually allowed them to start to stream all of the data off-site. They waited till the right season, actually the holiday season in October, November. So your attack surface is no longer just your network. It could be every other trusted connection that's attached to it. This is really one of the driving forces behind a zero trust cybersecurity strategy. Layered security really is the foundation of zero trust. Many people kind of mistakenly believe that zero trust is just like a product or a one-time implementation, but that's not what it is. It is truly a strategy built on multiple layers of cybersecurity. Thinking about protecting a bank vault, they don't just rely on a single lock. They use security guards, badge systems, surveillance cameras, vaulted doors, alarm systems, monitoring teams. Each layer compensates for a weakness that's in another layer. Cybersecurity works exactly the same way. The layers of security build upon each other. And we need to acknowledge the important truth. Here's what it is. No control is perfect in and of itself. People do make mistakes. They often are your weakest link. Technology can fail. Credentials can get stolen. Systems do get compromised. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is containment. That brings us to the full 7 pillars of zero trust. So here we go. Pillar 1, identity security. Identity is the new perimeter, as we call it. That's the end user. That's people, home users, mobile users, etc. Increasingly, they gain access through legitimate credentials. If someone logs in with a valid username and password, many traditional defenses become ineffective. Once they're inside, they can go east to west, as I said before. That's why organizations implement multi-factor authentication and identity governance, conditional-based access that only gives them access to those things that they should have access to. We sometimes call it role-based access controls. And then often single sign-on, which can create a better point of entry. The objective is simple. Verify the identities continuously. Identity is no longer assumed. It's continually validated. That's really important. Decentralized authentication, we call it, not just centralized. Here's the second pillar of zero trust. It's device security. Even trusted employees can become security risks if their devices become compromised. Before you grant access, organizations should ask, is this approved device? Is this device trusted? Is it encrypted? Are there security updates on the device up to date? Is there endpoint detection response running? Is it being monitored for nefarious behavior? And is it behaving normally? Zero trust will validate both the user and the device before it grants the access. This kind of leads to a boardroom question. Imagine a board meeting. Revenue is strong, growth projections look positive, expansion plans are moving forward. The director then asks a simple question. What percentage of our privileged accounts are protected by MFA, and more importantly, advanced MFA? The boardroom is silent. Another question follows. When was our last backup restoration fully tested? More silence. A third question. If ransomware hit us tomorrow morning, how quickly could we actually isolate the incident and the system that's breached? Again, nobody knows. These are not technical questions. These are governance questions. And it is why zero trust is not just an IT initiative. It really is a leadership discipline. These are metrics your board and your executive leaders should always know. Let's talk about pillar 3 of zero trust. Network security. Traditional networks often provide broad access. And so once somebody gets inside, they can move freely. Spoke about east to west earlier in terms of how they can go into the network and get access to things. Zero trust changes this through segmentation. We even call it microsegmentation. Imagine a cruise ship. If one compartment floods, water doors prevent the entire ship from sinking. Network segmentation actually works the same way. If the attackers compromise one particular area or compromise a user, microsegmentation can reduce the impact of the ransomware and the insider threats. It isolates them so they can't have a broader blast radius, as we call it. It initiates it. This goal merely prevents intrusion. It's preventing escalation. It's doing both. I just finished discussing the first 3 pillars of zero trust.
And so if you found that valuable, please like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on your notifications. I'd love to hear from you about the 7 pillars of zero trust. What's working in your organization? Do you use zero trust? Do you not? Certainly provide feedback. I'd love to open a discussion. You can leave your answers in the comments. And again, if you'd like any help assessing your cybersecurity maturity or with zero trust readiness or compliance posture or anything of those areas of your risk exposure, please visit ipservices.com. And that's my company, would be happy to reach out to you and make a connection. Also would like to mention that I'm going to go into the next series of zero trust principles, the other 4 pillars, in my next video.